let's talk about how we start a speech, because a lot of times we don't know what to do, what to say, and it's really awkward. And sometimes people just start with things like, hello, my name is, and I'm going to be giving a speech about this, which is really not the most advantageous way to begin a speech. Hello, my name is Shante. I am a motivational speaker, a speech coach, a national speech and debate champion, and a professor of speech. And I have been teaching my class on TikTok. So here are some tips and things that will help you that I give my students all the time. So what we recommend that you start a speech with is called an attention getter or an attention grabber or a hook. Depends on who you talk to about that, what they want to call it. Any of those are great. Call it whatever you want. But the whole point of it is you want to grab the audience's attention first and then tell them what you're going to talk about. So there are a bunch of ways you could do this, and I've done some videos on them, but let's talk about some that are good and some that are not so good. Okay, so my favorite is to tell a story. So you tell a story. It could be real or someone else's story. It could be your story. It could be a fictional story, but you want to tell a story, and you save the end of the story for the conclusion of your speech, and it creates a really nice bookend. That's my absolute favorite way to do it. I tell my students that's a good way to do it, but people like to do other things. But let's talk about one that my students use today that I constantly tell them is not a good idea. That is hypothetical situation. So people like to use these hypothetical situations like imagine this, or in a world where this happens, or could you imagine if this happened to you? Yeah, that's great because you think it gets the audience to think about what's happening, except when you use something that's a bad situation. And look, there's a lot of bad things happening in the world. And when we talk about persuasive speeches and how you want to persuade an audience, there's definitely an emotional appeal there that makes it much more successful. But I do not want to tell my audience to imagine something that's bad because they don't want to imagine themselves in that. And the whole point of this attention getter, grabber, hook thing is to pull them in to want to listen to your speech. And if I start the speech with something like, imagine if you had to flee your home country with just the clothes on your back and grab your children and get out for your safety. Nobody wants to imagine that. That is absolutely terrible and horrific. And it breaks our heart that there are people in this world who absolutely have to do that for their lives and for their safety. So nobody wants to imagine that that's them. Not a powerful way to start a speech. Your audience is going to tune out and stop listening and start thinking about what they're going to have for lunch. That's terrible. It's the beginning of your speech. You want them to be listening, not running away and thinking about something else. So hypotheticals about bad things, not good. Nobody wants to hear that. What a better hypothetical would be is if you want to use a hypothetical, pick something that's in the future that hasn't happened yet. And it should be something good. Imagine a world where you can taste the things that your favorite cooking show chefs are making on television at the same time that you watch them. Ooh, now that's a world I want to live in. And I'd like to imagine that, but I don't want to imagine the bad things. Now, if you want that emotional appeal and you want to have the audience be drawn in emotionally and feel some hurt, don't ask them to imagine a thing. Tell them a real story. Tell them about a person who lives in that war-torn area. Give us a name, give us an age, tell them where they're from, tell me what they do, and that they had to flee with their 2 children and just the clothes on their back. And before they left, they were a doctor with a thriving business helping their community. And now they're living in a refugee camp. That draws your audience in because it's a real story and real people, and they connect to that. And now you've got them emotionally. But nobody wants to imagine that it's them in that person's situation. It's just a terrible situation, and that sucks. So when you're trying to begin your speech, start with something that grabs their attention, hooks them in, gets an attention getter, whatever you want to call them. It's a really great way to do that. And after you start that and use your attention getter, then you tell them your name and what your speech is about. And that's the way to grab their attention. It's a good way to start a speech. If you like this tip, please like, subscribe, follow for me for more information and tips, and I'll be happy to help you become a better public speaker.